All right, let's draw for turn. We're here to bring you commander insights and hot tech to level up your game. Each episode focuses on a different topic with our four-person pod, albeit slightly short-staffed this week, to give you all our spicy take. And our special guest of the week is one we happen to wish for. Use the pun. Mr. Matt Wish. How you doing, Matt? How you been?
Sir, how are you doing?
I am exhausted. But that is life.
Probably not as exhausted as you are, but
Yeah,
he's been working hard.
we've all been trying to get it. It's been 2 weeks. We've got a new person to the show. Matt, I want to open the floor to you. Give us the lowdown. Who are you? What's new? What's going on? And how's Commander life?
Sure thing. Yep. As you said, Matt Wish. I started playing Magic, recently back in revised days. Played heavily, played competitively through some of the best blocks ever, stopping around Apocalypse. Prophecy days. Those were my fun times. But yeah, stopped around Apocalypse and picked it back up due to Commander, just to sit down, have some beers, and play with some friends.
Love it.
It's my favorite way to play.
Yeah, honestly.
If you had to describe your play style or the things that you like to play, how would you describe it for
Sure. So
for some context for a lot of people?
Right. So for my context, when it comes to Commander, honestly, I like to play what I consider to be fun. So whether that's trying to beat somebody with 9 clones of Rograk or beating them with a giant Gorilla Banana Boy, just things that I don't typically see across from me is what I enjoy.
It's a good medium to have, like a wide diverse. And I mean, I know you and I are like kindred souls because dragons.
Yep. Absolutely.
And Voltron. Don't
And
forget
Voltron.
about Voltron.
Yeah. My nickname to a lot of my close friends, as well as on most of my forums, is just Dragon or VSU Dragon.
Oh, so that's where okay. I always wondered where the VSU dragon came from in like your socials and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say I don't think Virginia State University has a mascot
Valdosta.
of- Yeah.
No, it's Valdosta State University in
Okay.
Georgia,
Okay.
home of the Blazers, which is a mascot of a dragon.
Okay. Suddenly everything makes sense. I was
Symbolism.
on the right track. I got the
You
the
were.
university wrong.
You were close.
EK was putting together the clues there.
That's my I worked in a higher education nonprofit setting for 3 years.
There you go. I worked higher education for a few years. Before that, I was actually a elementary school teacher, focused on the primary grades of kindergarten, first, and second.
No wonder why we have you on for this topic, especially.
This was the
You
surprise.
you actually have a structured education in how to do this,
Yes.
in addition to a passion.
we probably should say what the topic was because I think I did skip over it. Well, it is going to be teaching the next generation Magic, and honestly, I don't really think we could have thought of anyone better because Matt's kids have actually played with us in our Commander pods and actually beat us.
Destroyed you.
I died to
Not
Cunis
me.
and Eldrazi. It was very one-sided.
I haven't played against the kiddos yet, but I'm looking forward to it one day.
So adorable, dude. When they say Ratchet Bomb,
I'm ready to get run over by Shattergang Brothers and ground out.
it is good time.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be playing that deck anytime soon. They just like
It's
to see Dad play it.
Okay, Shattergang Brothers gets a little complicated too. I can see
Right.
that.
Especially the way that I have that one built.
Fair enough.
Just because I have, so most of the people watching this probably don't know, but I actually got an altar of the Shattergang Brothers made to have it look like my kids with a bunch of Pokemon exploding behind them.
It's
So
super
it
adorable.
It's
makes a
very,
fun
very
time.
fitting.
Yeah, because they break everything. So
Accurate.
I don't know how they're gonna feel about that reputation as they get older. When they say, "Dad, why is there a picture of us blowing things up on this card?" And it's like, listen here, kids. When you were little, you destroyed everything and made everyone's lives horrible when
right.
playing magical cardboards with them.
So pro tip, I have a box squirreled away that they don't know about of a bunch of the different things of mine that they have broken. So some of my collectible statues, some of my collectible toys. So I have that. So when they're older, I can pull it out and share those fond memories with them when they're getting ready to become fathers themselves.
Yeah, and share how much investment money that they lost to you moving forward.
Exactly.
Like, a little retirement fund or like a vacation for you and your wife once you're empty nesters.
100%.
I love that. Hey, EK, it's been a couple weeks. How you been, bud?
I'm jamming. I played like 14 games of Commander in like the last 2 weeks alone. Like I've averaged over a game a day, and that's like very unlike me.
Yeah.
You've bore the brunt of most of it, but it's been fun. I've just finally gotten the opportunity to play all of those decks that I've been brewing for the last year, and like finally have on hand. So
They look so pretty.
one of them does, because the other one I built really cheaply.
One looks pretty. They both work.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
because I built them.
True. What's been like your favorite one to jam out of the two?
I've played more Saskia than anything, mostly because it's just more appropriate for the tables that we're trying to play. Matt will see it one day, I'm sure, because it's very in line with the power level that he likes to play at. But it's a wild pair deck where every creature has the same power and toughness, so every creature finds every creature. So it also gets creative too, and plays a lot of cards that you forgot existed, and a lot of really old cards too, like the old Kavu cards.
Yeah, you dug deep for some of that. That I remember.
Like, I'm unironically running Spark Trooper and the Groundbreaker from like, it would have been like 2002 at that point. And there's like some early 90s cards that like reshuffle your graveyard. Like, it's great. Like it's
You're
just
speaking my language, EK.
It's a thought experiment into what you can do by hampering your deck building restriction as much as possible while still having like a cohesive deck, but also like killing people from 40 from an empty board and 6 mana.
The thing of art and beauty.
Yeah, all because of a draft chaff rare from I think it's Aether Revolt.
I think so.
It's either Aether Revolt or Khalida. Yeah, no, it's Aether Revolt. Greenbelt Rampager. It's a 1-mana 3/4.
Okay.
But you have to pay energy to keep it on the table. Otherwise, it goes back to your hand. So you just keep replaying it and triggering Wild Pair over and over and over again.
Yeah, that was the thing you busted out on Sunday. Friday?
Yeah.
Friday.
It was Friday.
It was Friday at like 12 a.m. But
yeah, I threatened killing 2 people from an empty board with 6 open mana.
It was scary, but it was awesome.
It would have been worse, but I drew one of the cards that you would fetch for. But that's besides the point. Let's keep moving, because I want to get into the topic.
I know
there's not really a lot of pertinent news.
No, that's true.
Exists. Spoilers started. They're cool. I'm sure we'll talk about them at a later date, but we can ask Matt if there's a card that he's excited for from Kaldheim.
Honestly, the new red counterspell, Tybalt's Trickery, even, I may have misread the card at first.
Yeah, because you were thinking that you could like cascade your deck or something.
Yeah.
I remember.
I misread that you didn't cast from the mill. I thought you randomly milled 1, 2, or 3 and then cast one of those cards before. Yeah. Thankfully, people corrected me. But even so, I still love it.
Before you invested a ton into completely redoing a deck.
Right, exactly. But no, because one of the things that I have been collecting are big color pie break cards. And even though it's a chaos counter, it's still a counter spell for red. So I'm still chalking it up as a color pie break. So I'll be snagging a few of those for the collection.
Yeah. I will say I love the design of that card. Chaos or not, it's nice flavor. It fits in so well.
Some might call that evidence. Wow. Okay, Adam, I see you in the chat. Yeah, well, no, I it's funny. I fully expect that to be like one of the like unironically one of the more expensive rares in the set.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because
Well, hopefully not until I've bought them.
That's just gonna buy them all. Easy.
Right. It's going to be my puppy dog planes all over again.
I have one. I'm not willing to get another.
I have 42.
Oh, okay. Never. I will be quiet. Okay,
I'm
Matt,
not saying a word.
for your information, Tybalt's Trickery is pre-ordering for $8 on Card Kingdom, which means that you could probably go like $750 on TCG if you get lucky.
Yeah.
So not the most expensive rare mythic in the set, but like top 15 or so.
Holds a value.
It's not
Holds a
terrible.
value.
Yeah. It depends on how fast the CEDH brewers like come to the conclusion that it's either worth it or not worth it.
I mean,
either way, it's a fun card.
Swing prices also.
Yeah.
So like if it makes a splash in standard somehow, it'll see a tick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those like people can't play standard and paper as much right now, so the standard isn't pushing the market. I could geek out on economics all night. It's like quietly my background.
It is.
Yeah. No, it's like I appreciate that they are like really trying to push the envelope with some of the cards in this set, and I think that's a perfect example of something where they just screw it. Let's do something that we haven't done before.
Yeah, maybe we can see some white card draw then.
Nah, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Speaking of getting ahead of yourselves, I am going to say that's everything resolved for News on the Stack.
Yes.
And we're going to get into this episode's topic.
Split second
resolution. The next generation of Magic. The real reason we're here, aside from we just love talking to each other. So, guys, it's no secret. Magic the Gathering is more popular than ever. The same game we played as kids has continued to be played until we become with... Some might call adult, some might call with children with adult money. Phrase it however you want. But the game will only last so long as there is players to play. And with some of us now having kids, we stand to pass the torch to the next generation of players. But how do you foster the same love we have for the game with our kids? That's a question I'm sure we're all going to pose. At the current time when we have kids, or the future when we have some or more. And that's why we've asked Matt to come on the show tonight. Matt, why don't you give the listeners a little background on yourself and your gaming career, a little bit more in depth than what we touched on just in the intro. Like, give us some insight into the man, the myth, the legend, as I steal a phrase from one of my good friends, into you and the world of Magic and the next generation.
Sure. So, in terms of Magic, again, I really wasn't active in Magic until probably about January of 2020. Back in my day though, like I was running tournaments, I was sitting down, I was like top 16ing back when we had like state championships and things of that nature, until it got to the point where I was being competitive and being overly competitive to the point where I just lost the joy. So thankfully, I'm coming back, having the joy through Commander with this new way to, well, for me, this new way to play, which was not really around back.
No, it really wasn't.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I've played other card games competitively, from like the wrestling card game back in the day, to more recently doing Pokemon competitively, which really is the segue to all this and what fostered my children to get into Magic. It was really that gateway card game of Pokemon, right? So
yeah, I'm familiar with the Pokemon card game from like my childhood, but like we never actually played the game. We just collected the cards and looked at them because they were pretty, and then like thought that we could play the game, but then it ended up being too complicated.
So hard.
And yet it's still a little bit more simplified than Magic.
Which is kind of scary to me because like Magic is so intuitive, but like I mean at this point I've been playing card games for like a decade, so it's a lot different. Like I ended with Magic, I didn't start with it.
Yeah, I've been playing a little bit longer than that. I've been playing card games since like '93.
Fair. How would you find like the comparison between like different, like going on the aspect of knowing different card games, does having the
Mhm.
knowledge of different card games and sort of the teaching background you have sort of impart different perspectives and wisdom into how you can teach other people the game. You're bringing in different fundamentals from different areas. Like, how are you applying those different fundamentals from the different games and your teaching background to really imparting that wisdom and education onto the next generation, or even just other players in general?
Mhm. So when it came to like teaching my kids Magic, I stole some from what they already knew from Pokemon. So, for instance, both of my kids, they don't call lands lands, they call them energy. They're slowly starting to call them lands, but in Pokemon, they're called energy, right?
Yeah. At
So,
the end of the day, it's a source to be able to do something.
Yeah.
exactly. They know that they need their energy. So, to the point where I actually collected the Thoreau's Pokemon lands for my kids for when they first started looking at it because it was familiar to them, right? I also, when I first started showing them, did not let them play with instants because in Pokemon, you cannot do anything on your opponent's turn. So it made it more intuitive to them to, okay, it's my turn. I get to do what I want. My opponent's turn, they do what they want, right? So they both thought that, well, EK, you'll love this because they both hated blue because it just didn't really do anything.
I love that.
So yeah, they both gravitated to red and green pretty quickly.
Okay.
I'm so proud of them.
When they play more black,
I'm
I'll be
slowly
more
converting
proud.
them to the joys of white.
Nah, teach them black. Let them play Jund.
Why don't you just teach them both and make them all dirty Saskia players?
There you go.
Oh dear.
Best of both
But
worlds.
but yeah, I mean, really, that was the big thing for me was it kind of doing it slowly, right? So my kids naturally loved Pokemon way before they ever saw the Pokemon card game. I only picked up the Pokemon card game because of my kids. So I never had played it until they started asking me to, or at least my older one, who now is 7 years old. So really, what happened was, I mean, there's this little game that came out a few years ago. I don't know if you've heard of it called Pokemon Go. This
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
tiny
yeah.
little mobile game.
Both thing.
Yeah. So my wife and I were becoming a bit more active instead of being couch potatoes, going for walks, and we're like, hey, let's do this Pokemon Go thing. Let's try it out. Started walking with the kids. My son, who at the time was 3 years old, saw it, asked what it was, and my wife handed him her phone. And my God, that was the worst mistake of our lives. Um,
Oh no.
because there's just Pokemon everywhere in my house.
Oh,
They
no.
they both of my kids have probably well over 150, 200 of the Pokemon plushies, stuffed animals. Their walls are just Pokemon stickers everywhere. It's just it's really kind of like their way of life. They have all the video games that there are out there. And then when my son turned 4, my parents, who I swear I love, but sometimes they decided to give him a few packs of Pokemon cards.
Oh no.
And once he opened it up and he pulled a shiny hollow foil Pokemon,
Oh
it
yeah.
was over.
Yeah.
And then
sounds
he
about
wanted
right.
more cards. And then it was, hey, what are these cards for? I'm like, well, it's a game. Cool, teach me how to play. And that was when that oh crap moment happened.
I don't know
because
how to
I had
play.
no clue how to play.
It's okay. Neither did we when we were kids.
Right.
When
Yeah.
it first came out, in the
Right.
90s.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where I quickly learned how to play, and then the same thing that I started then with Pokemon is what I also do with Magic, where I went out of my way to find cards without like any special text, special rules
Yeah.
on it. So if if the Pokemon card had an attack, it had to just be a flat base attack, no special effects. So my kids, when I started teaching them, they love the Garrick creatures that are just a blank text
I was
box.
about to say I'm pretty sure you were teaching them how to play Garrick decks.
Yeah. Exactly.
Very
or
fitting.
like vanilla White Weenie.
Right. So, but yeah, my kids started transitioning from Pokemon to Magic just from seeing me play. I honestly never thought they would want to switch because my oldest son at 6 years old, got a world's invite for Pokemon, where he earned that through us doing tournaments and stuff.
That's
Where
insane.
he basically learned how to read because of Pokemon cards.
So your
So I was like,
so your,
"Oh, this is
your
our life."
son is like the Dana Fisher of Pokemon?
Yeah,
Is that
that's
what
what I'm
you're saying?
hearing.
Yeah. He's actually one of the youngest all time from America to get a world's invite. There are some kids from Japan who crushed his age. But yeah, from America, he's one of the youngest of all time. I don't remember where it was. I know he's not the youngest, but he's up there.
That is
So yeah,
insane.
it was one of those things where they just saw me play. They saw me starting collecting the cards, and they just were like, "Dad, what's this game?" And I was like, "Oh, this is Magic. It's kind of like Pokemon, but with cooler monsters and better art." And
part of it too, I think, is like them wanting to spend time with you and
Right,
bond
yeah.
with their father and make it a family
well,
thing too. That's the afterthought.
they like to beat their father in games.
Okay.
So
So competitiveness.
Right. They're both very highly competitive. So one of the things is when I first started teaching them, I always had to make sure that like their deck was an 8 and my deck was a 4.
Okay.
So I could beat them and I could keep the pressure on them just by knowing what I was doing. But 9 times out of 10, they were going to win just because the deck was just outright better.
Flat out
Right.
better.
Right. So like the first standard deck that I did for my 5-year-old it was Borocycling, and I was taking that up against my mono green Simic deck, my mono green Mutate deck. So it was a fun deck, but when I've got a stack
Not
of 4
quite
creatures,
on the same.
Yeah,
right.
it's not-
I had a stack of 4 creatures. He's like, oh, okay, and I just destroy it with my one cool spell and crush your hopes and dreams, Dad.
Your kids sound like they would enjoy Primal Surge.
Yeah,
right,
seriously. Suddenly we're a Primal Surge
Yes,
podcast now.
They would absolutely love a card like Primal Surge.
I had to shoehorn it in. We've been talking about it for the last hour and a half. I had to.
No, it's fair.
Yeah.
I kind of want to just ask a question on the competitiveness. So, like,
Mhm.
competitiveness can breed curiosity in a lot of different ways. But like, how did you scope the competitiveness of your kids into curiosity to want to try other combinations? Because I know, I won't say like kids get distracted, but they've kept an interest.
Yeah.
They've wanted to explore. How have you gone to develop that and further expand their interest in the game and keeping it fresh and vibrant?
Yeah, sure, easy. So when I build a deck for my kid, I try to build one where you're either going to win real quick or you're going to get destroyed real quick. There is
That's
no
my
in
kind of
between,
deck.
right? Yeah. So
There's no emotional investment too, which is good for someone like them.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I'm not going to sit down and give them like an Orzhov control deck. Like that's going to take way too long. They're going to lose interest. They're going to start staring off into the others. I call it like they're a cat with a flashlight, right? So that's going to happen. So I always give them quick, hard-hitting decks where if they fire off, they're going to beat you fast. But if it doesn't, you're going to beat them probably just as fast, right?
Right.
I try to avoid things like Uro, like big combo synergy type things where there's a lot of moving pieces, because one of the keys with kids is the more moving pieces you have, the quicker they're going to lose interest, right? A kid doesn't want to sit here and remember all of their triggers, It's just one of those things.
Right, it kind of ties into the either attention span or a bit of memory, right? You want to keep the interest in it and keep it focused. If it's something that is quick for them, they're going to want to do more, especially if it's an enjoyable aspect. Right?
Exactly. So my 5-year-old has actually really taken to Jumpstart, right? He
Awesome.
he likes Commander only because he loves Rograk, which I'm very proud of.
I mean, who doesn't?
But he loves Jumpstart because the games of Jumpstart are really fast. Like in 20 minutes, he and I can bang out like 2 or 3 games. The games just fly by. He gets to play a bunch of different cards. It's always something different for him.
Well, and I was gonna say there's a real fun like random element to the smash up aspect of it too, like rolling a dice and seeing like which decks, which
Right.
half decks that you're picking up too.
Mhm.
Like
Right.
every game is different, but
Right.
there's enough there.
One of the things that I've been doing for him is I let him pick his 2 decks, and then he either gets to pick Dad's 2 decks or mine become random, right?
Okay.
So
Oh,
he has a bit of a take that to it, because I've noticed ever since he saw my joy the first time I randomly got dragons, he has picked them every single time,
Okay.
just to make sure Dad can't have them.
okay.
That's not where I thought that you were gonna go with this. There's a like a child psychology thing that we learned, when I was studying psychology. Uh to have a child make better choices for the betterment of a group, you have them pick everyone's option,
Right.
and the other person picks from that pile of options that they made. So like, cutting a cake, you know,
Mhm.
they cut the 2 pieces and then the other person picks the piece. They're more incentivized to pick,
Right.
to make 2 very like balanced or generous picks
Mhm.
than, they otherwise would if they were cutting it and then picking their own.
Right. Right.
So they're,
That's what I'm building towards right now, because we're still at the stages of just fostering him actually wanting this to be something that he does
yeah,
all the time, right?
yeah.
So like my 5-year-old, he loves board games, but he's 5. He's not really reading right now, so it's got to
No,
be board games without a lot of reading. But
Candyland.
one of the things that I found, which is kind of amazing, is he's memorizing all of these magic cards, right? So
Okay.
right now, I have a Jumpstart cube that is a 5x5. So it's 5 decks of each color plus the rainbow deck. And by God, like we're at the point where I'm like, all right, let me see your hand so I can help you, let you know what your cards do. And he's like, no, you can't see this because then you're gonna know how to stop me. And he starts playing the cards, and I'm like, so he'll play like Dragon Fodder, and he's like, Daddy, I need the Goblin tokens, and I'm like, yeah, you do. All right.
Jeez.
Let's
Okay.
go. So it's cool. But yeah, he's got his tapping down. He at first was, tapping in the wrong direction. We fixed that. Our good friend Steph will be happy to know that Dad fixed that tapping backwards nonsense.
Don't talk about tapping. EK still taps left to this day.
Dude, I tap left. I like just habitually I tap left because I hold my cards in my left hand and I tap with my right hand, and it's more natural for my wrist to turn inwards than outwards.
Right.
Just because I've messed it up so many times playing sports. So
admittance is the very first stage.
I unapologetically do it, and now that I've found out that like there are prominent SCG grinders that do it too, I don't care. Like I've just leaned into it, and I've accepted that I'm a left tapper.
We
Fair
still
enough.
love you, EK.
There you go.
I appreciate it.
Kind of building off like what we were just going off of, learning the game and talking about the betterment of the group. Let's kind of get into sportsmanship and etiquette. How teaching, when not to be a sore loser kind of thing. Like kids are young, it can be hard to understand certain concepts of ideas. And I know when I was a kid, when I lost to my dad, sometimes I was okay, but I definitely threw like a temper tantrum here and there.
Right.
It happens.
So-
But
Yeah.
how do you go about in sort of giving the idea of it's okay for losing and addressing, proper sportsmanship and to be happy to learn from it?
Well, and especially because Magic is very swingy.
Mhm.
Like even just like someone having a removal spell is a huge deal in the grand scheme of things of a game. So there are big feel bads even just from a random turn in a game, let alone like actually losing the game. Just like how do you teach them to learn that that's just that's part of the game, that's how things go. Like they'll experience this, but you're going to also make other people experience the same thing as well.
Right. Well, I mean, thankfully, we live just outside of Philadelphia, so we're used to losing. So they kind of have that from birth. But I mean, yeah, I mean that. It's kind of what I said before, right? You let them start by, yeah, I'm going to beat Dad. He might occasionally beat me. And one of the things is I mean, you all know already, I'm a big talker, right?
Yeah.
it's hard to shut me up. So
It's a good problem to have, though.
Extremely.
Right.
It really is.
So when they get mad because I won, I sit down and I talk to them, and it's normally something like, "Hey, how do you feel when you win?" "Okay, great. How do you think I felt when I just won?" And they say, "You felt like this." And I go, "No, I didn't. Because you got so upset and so angry, I didn't get to feel that way." And taking it and rolling it in that way, getting them to talk about how good it makes them feel when they do it, and then rolling it into how their bad attitude removed that joy from me, and that oftentimes can kick it off. And if all else fails, cookies.
Yeah, it I don't know.
Wait,
As
cookies?
adults, we like to liken things a lot. I mean, at least I do. I like to liken things a lot to like gambling and like other card games, like adult card games, like poker and blackjack and stuff like that. There's this idea that you have to give action to get action. So you're not going to win some games without losing some games as well.
Yeah.
You're
and that's why
you're working your way. You're working your kids up to that.
Exactly. Right. So I've gotten it to the point with Jumpstart with my 5-year-old where, it's about 50-50, where I try to make sure that he wins half, he loses half, so he's getting used to it. My older son, my 7-year-old, I mean, again, he got a world's invite to Pokemon. He knows how to lose.
He's very competitive. Like he's very intuitive. It clicks with him.
Right. And I don't know what I did in a previous life to get him, because I wish I could instow some grandiose knowledge on what I did for him to be like that. But honestly, the kid was just born like that. Like he was in like a winning in Philly for a big regional event for Pokemon. The kid lost, and he was like, "Oh, that's so cool! I'm happy for you!" Like shaking the kid's hand, talking about their decks, and I'm like, "Dude." I would have been crying in the corner at 38 years old, and here you are.
Yeah, I don't know. You picture. I don't want to name names on like a Magic Pro, but if they're in a win and in for day 2 at like a GP or something like that, like it just sucks to lose that. It really does.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Feeling the loss is never nice, but like, you've got a 7-year-old that I would say probably takes things better than either a lot of people,
most adults.
Most adults. I mean, even at I get salty on MTG ladder, but like I've seen other players like that'll just be like 3 losses in a row and they just get up and leave, and it's just like, we'll edit that out. You've got a 7-year-old taking in that kind of humility, and I really like the aspect of what you're going in, because it's also teaching them emotional responsibility.
I mean, that's something that they'll carry with them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, like that's a lesson that outside of Magic just is an important life lesson. Ultimately, I think a lot of what you're imparting in on them with getting them through these games, learning sportsmanship, critical thinking, analyzing cards. You're adapting their reading skills. They're learning mathematical skills. They're learning themselves. They're understanding feelings. Like you're imparting self and growth development through a game with your teaching skills. Your kids. I don't think that's anything that anyone could ever ask for better. I think like that's quite literally, dude, like honest praise to you. I think that's amazing.
Well, thanks.
It's gonna go to his head now. I shouldn't have said that.
I don't know about that. When I'm casting silence on him and then just comboing off or rolling train over a table and that he happens to be collateral damage on, he'll take all of that right back. I guarantee you.
I mean, I honestly, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, right? Like Sean, you've been playing with me for almost a year now,
Pretty
and
close,
it's very rare for me to get salty in a game of Commander, where normally I'm sitting there just laughing, right? It is what it is. So I try to let them see that that's how I play, where, hey, yeah, you know what? They beat me. Who cares? I was sitting there and I made 47 different salamander tokens. I'm good.
You got to do your thing. The thing that you set out to have fun wanting to do, you were able to do it.
Exactly.
I was going to say that's a classic like nature versus nurture example.
Yeah.
There's like that your natural reaction to something going wrong, something like they pick up on that. They say this is what you're supposed to do. That their body internalizes that behavior. So like really, in a roundabout way, it circles back onto you, and how you play the game
Right.
is how they're the way that
Right.
they're learning to play. They see you. That's the right way to play.
Mhm.
That's how I should be. I want to be like my dad.
Yeah.
Right. If they see you screaming and cursing or just getting angry, pounding, they're going to pick up on that, right? It's just
Absolutely.
they're kids. It's what's going to happen. So when you're cool and you're mellow, and like, oh yeah, no, you got me, good game, man. Like that's what they're going to take away.
Yeah. Well, and especially for a format like Commander, where winning isn't the point of the game for most people, and from a statistical standpoint, your expected win rate is 25% of the time. 3 out of 4 games you're going to play, you're going to lose.
Right.
So losing is naturally part of the format.
Yeah.
So
And
taking it in stride is just a skill that you need to develop.
right. To be honest, I hate it when I sit down to play Commander and it's one of those things where it's like, oops, I won on turn 5 and nobody really did anything. Like everybody was ramping, setting up, and here comes Matt and he wins. It's like, no, I personally hate that. I love when everybody's like, oh, Matt, you're done. You're done. She's got you. And I go, see this Mirage Mirror? Yeah, I'm going to copy your Kamal and slam you with 9 Rograk clones for the win.
Yeah,
those are the ones that get me excited.
See, it's fun. It's funny you say like turn 5, turn 6, and stuff like that. Like we played a game the other night. It was turn 6, and every player was below 10 life.
Yeah,
but we weren't playing competitive.
Right,
Sean, you weren't even a part of this game. You happened to walk into it.
Yeah, that's why I was saying. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it was turn 6. Everyone was below 10 life, but we weren't playing CEDH. Like it was just the nature of the game that we were playing. It's like everyone got to do their thing. Everyone ramped. Everyone played a bunch of creatures. It's 4 aggro decks, smash and face. So like, yeah, it was a quick game, but everyone got to do what they wanted to do.
right.
So as long as everyone gets to do what they want to do, it doesn't really matter what happens.
Yeah. Like my goal when I sit down to play Commander is to make sure that I don't make anybody else have a bad time. Right? I feel like when I sit down to play Commander, there's one thing and one thing only I can control, and that's to make sure that I don't play in a way where somebody else isn't able to enjoy themselves.
So what you're saying is we will never see you playing a stack. We will never see you playing super.
Oh no! I have a stack just okay.
Oh, he's got a super fun stack too.
Johnson.
See, I don't know. I'm one of those weird sadistic people who like actually likes playing into stacks because it's a puzzle.
Yeah.
It's a puzzle to get out of rather than get into.
Yeah, it's a series of sequences.
I love white. Like, how else am I going to play mono white and have it be mildly competitive? Besides,
I've shared that Eric Andre meme in Discord how many times at this point?
So
like
many.
Like that's just how it is.
Yeah, but guys, we're in white.
How it has to be. How it has to be.
Armageddon, Cataclysm.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Simple answer.
World Slayer.
Yeah.
So it's automatically white.
Yeah.
Or Boros Charm, Armageddon, Boros Charm, like Shaman of I don't know, like World Fire, stuff like that.
Yeah. So because I had a mono white deck. I've had it forever. It's what I affectionately call my Magneto Cat deck, Balin the Wandering Knight, right? Where he pulls all the metal into himself. I had it initially as like a fun little budget brew where I was trying to make it like a 6 or 7. And it led to some salty times because people walking into a 6 or 7 didn't like me literally having no board state, and then all of a sudden they're out of the game from like 80 life, right? So I was like, all right, let me power this deck up. Tried to take it up as a Voltron deck to like an 8, 8.5, and a Voltron mono white deck, I wasn't able to hang, right? It was one of those things where I was then the one just getting smashed. Like, all right, here I am.
You need to lead. The further up you go, the more you have to lean into the other one. Like the casual faux pas and
Yeah, you have to break certain aspects of the social contract to really bring a deck up.
But are you though?
Yeah, I don't think you're not. I don't think you.
Yeah, like honestly, I think those social contracts go away once people are like, "Hey, we're playing a high power pod, right?"
Yeah, for
If
sure.
I'm playing high power, I expect anything and everything.
Yeah.
Because that's what everybody's going into it expecting.
Gloves are off. It's no holds bar. Give it your best. That's the bottom line right there.
Like we were having this. I was having this discussion earlier with some content creator friends. We're like, I mean, the example that they brought up was Marin and like graveyard decks. If you're playing a game, I'm not just gonna let you do whatever you want. Like I'm gonna play Rest in Peace. I'm gonna play a Bajuka Bog and stuff like that. And like you just have to expect that.
Right.
And the thing that got me thinking just now is like how would you teach a child, someone, or just like anyone learning the game, that things like that will happen? Like there are going to be people out there that you'll run into that they run some cards that just completely counter your deck.
Mm-hmm.
And like teaching that's like something that they can expect, depending on who they're playing with. Because that's a hard conversation to have with anybody, really.
Honestly, what I found worked well, and again, I have to go back to Pokemon, right? Is just letting them experience it, right? So with like my youngest son, he qualified with this random wacky deck based off of some giant Ultra Beast thing, where he would mill himself, and and for every card he milled that was like an energy or your mana, he got to put it directly into play. And then it would start unleashing these huge attacks. But the problem was it was very weak to a certain type of deck where he basically had no shot against it. And he was insistent on playing it in an event where I knew his weakness was going to be the number one deck in the room. And I was like, all right, go for it. And then just let him experience that and then talk to him and be like, yeah, like sometimes you may want to do X, but the other decks are just going to be the complete opposite and just shut you down. What do we do? And he looked at me like tears in his eyes because he went like 0-5. And it was like one of the few like feel bads. And he was like, I don't know. I was like, you keep playing, like, because at some point you're going to be the one that is the complete opposite and shuts them down.
Yeah, you're going to be the 5-0.
Yeah,
right, exactly. The next event he went to was when he top cut with that same exact deck that he had just been crushed before, because everybody was trying to counter the deck that countered his deck. So he was able to just go in, everybody was slower, and he was just knocking them out real fast.
Yeah, I could get into the game theory about that, but we're saving that for another episode. No, it's like actually a thing though. Like there's like level 1, level 2, level 3, and that's like the big brain thing is to bring the level 3 deck. The deck that beats the deck that beats the deck that beats the best deck is sometimes secretly the best deck, but a lot of it boils down to just being in the right room on the right day.
Exactly. And that's really what I tried to tell him is like, you're not always going to know what decks you're going to face up against, right? Because especially with young kids, right? So when you're playing with adults, it's a lot easier for you to kind of know what you're going to face.
Well, and an adult is going to know to like subscribe to Team Lotus Box on Patreon and get their sideboard guides and the matchup charts and everything, like from internal testing. A kid's not going to know
exactly
that's what people do. They're going to play what they want to play.
Right. It's amazing because even at these big, huge events where they have like 1,000 some odd, people playing, the kids are sitting there like, yeah, these are the random 20 packs that I happened to buy over the course of 8 months. I threw them all together. I've got my Pokemon Wooburg version basically with no energy fixing whatsoever. Let's play some Pokemon.
Yeah.
Right. And it's one of those things where you just have to let them know. You don't always know what you're going to go up against. And if the room is just bad beats, all right, cool, whatever. You still got to play something that you love.
Yeah.
You may have lost, but you still got this experience. You got to meet all these new people.
You were able to have the opportunity in the first place.
Right, exactly.
And,
the opportunity opens up a lot more doors than just like getting that one-time win. Like the old proverb, like you learn more from losses than you do from winning, because that gives you the area of improving.
Right. And one of the things that I always try to do with my kids is I never ever reward them for a loss. I never ever reward them if they got really upset from losing. I only reward them when I can see that they're giving like really good effort. Whether they win or lose, I watch them and I'm like, hey, you were really focused on that game. You were really like paying attention, responding to your opponent, doing everything you could to do in that game, win or lose. That's what I love to see, and that's what I try to reward.
So would you say that it's like more like social based rewards, or just like character based? Obviously, results
It's
is
both, honestly. One of the absolute worst conversations I ever had to have as a father was with my then 6-year-old, as he trash talked a 5-year-old at a Pokemon event, where this kid came in with a unsleeved deck of just a random pile, and my kid looked at him. He was like, "What are you playing?" He's like, "Dude, you should just quit right now. You have no chance against me. I'm going to destroy you." He's like, "Your deck's just bad. Like, why would you bring that?" And I was just like the red just burned in my eyes. Like, no, this is not what we do.
No.
It's the only time I ever pulled him out of a tournament was when that happened. Because like, no, we don't treat people like this. Like, you just conceded to that kid. He got the win. We're sitting down and we're having a man-to-man talk.
I think that's the right way to handle that. 100%.
Yeah. I'm not a father. I don't have kids. I don't have nieces, nephews, or anything like that. But I feel like if I were in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
they're not going to learn anything from the situation unless you do something like that.
Right.
Good,
right.
Because if you don't, it reinforces the behavior. If anything.
Right. 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, even when you're playing Magic or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or any of these other games, even if you're playing it in a highly competitive thing, you're still playing a game, right? Like even like the Magic Pro players or the Pokemon Pro players, none of them really got there just immediately going, all right, I'm just going to crush kill. Like you got there at some point through a source of joy, through a source of love for something that initially drew you into it, right? There's always that catalyst for everybody that leads you to it. It might have been, a love for Yu-Gi-Oh, and then you're like, oh, there's more money in Magic. Let me shift here. But at some point, to get you from A to B, there was that love for something, and you don't want to crush that in other people. It's not okay.
Yeah, you want to be able to come back next week and see the same, sit across from the same people over and over again, like foster relationships, a community.
Exactly.
See the smiles, live the laughs, have the fun, and just embrace it because the game is a game.
Right.
Have fun with it.
Right. My oldest and longest friends are those who I grew up playing Magic with. Like I have a buddy where we've literally been friends since the 7th grade. And the first time we met each other, what were we doing? We were sitting down on the concrete playing Magic.
Yeah.
I get that.
Like it's just.
I always like the quote, Magic without the gathering is just a soulless grind.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no magic without the gathering. So if you're just not, if you're not fostering the right attitude, that community, or what have you, what's the point?
There isn't one.
And that just it just boils down to learning to be a good person, learning to be welcoming, understanding.
And honestly, that's the biggest key to getting kids into and continuing to play Magic is to keep it fun, right? Like as adults, when we see a younger kid who wants to play, whether it's your own kid or somebody else's, you need to kind of do that adult thing and make sure that the kid's enjoying themselves. And I'll even go as far as to personally say, even if that means it's a little less enjoyable for you,
it's worth it in the long run. You'll feel bad if you didn't.
Exactly.
That's how I always like, because my old store had a lot of younger kids who came in with their parents and stuff like that.
Right.
And at that point, I don't care.
Right.
I'm gonna make sure that they have a good time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make sure that they're having fun. my enjoyment is secondary at that point.
Right.
I know I will just feel guilty and feel bad and just be in a sour mood if I don't do that.
Right.
You're
I mean-
working to foster like happiness in some, like for
Yeah.
a 1 hour of being slightly less happy, you're giving a child years of happiness that they're gonna have. down the line.
And that's what I
Yeah.
I have way more fun making sure that someone else has the best night
Mhm.
of their week, something that they look forward to.
Right. My
than,
my
you know,
oldest still talks about his first game of Commander, right?
Aw.
Where he was just learning the game. He was just learning what Death Touch was, and he wanted to use Death Touch on an opposing player, right?
it makes sense. That's
I-
how it
yeah.
should work.
Right. And everybody was just laughing because it was adorable. Because we were like, all right, you're going to attack. Are you attacking with your Death Touch creature? Because it's going to destroy what it touches. And he's like, all right, I'm going to Death Touch Mr. Eric. And and it was just one of those things where like everybody's like laughing, we're having a good time, and like we explained to him like, well, that doesn't really work. And he's like, no, you told me it destroys. He's like, yeah, but. So then, the next day, I think it was Sean, told him about Infect, which
Yeah.
Mm,
was
I'm so
death touch for a player.
yeah.
No, but like I'm trying to think. There actually is a Vraska that emblems that says if a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, that
It
player
loses.
loses the game. I'm gonna I'm going to track down that.
You're not allowed to
Vraska.
show that to my son. You're not.
No.
No, I'm sorry.
I
Show
was
it
about
to
to
him.
say I'm gonna track down the blingest version of that Vraska and I'm sending it to you. I have
Yeah,
your
well,
address.
we're getting in on this. This is gonna be a gift from us.
If it's
Well, no,
Comic-Con,
I'm
if
already
it's one of the
fighting.
Comic-Con versions, it's even better.
I think it's Golgari Queen.
See, I'm already fighting because my one of my friends showed him Door to Nothingness, and
Oh
he
my
keeps
gosh.
begging me to build him a Door to Nothingness deck, and I'm like, I refuse. No.
Okay, so-
Sean, it is Golgari Queen. There's a Mythic Edition and a Secret Lair version.
there we go. Okay, problem solved. We know what we're getting your kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, now I'm glad I split that Secret Lair with Adam, and he took that one while I took a Johnny. So I'm very
Okay.
glad that he took that one now.
Okay. Yeah, because I was about to say that will become your son's favorite card.
Yeah, that will be your son. So we're kind of reaching the end. Matt, I'd like to ask, do you have any sage wisdom in regards to teaching youngsters about our favorite game that you'd like to impart to our listeners?
That we didn't already.
Yes.
Did
I
we
mean,
miss? Did we miss
right.
something?
Yeah.
The one key that we didn't touch on that is probably the biggest and most important takeaway you could ever have is do not push. If you try to push it on the kids, if you try to push them to play it, or if you try to make it more about you than about them, it's going to fail, right? If you're pushing them to play when they don't want to, if you're pushing them to do certain things, that is by far and away the cardinal sin to all of this. You want them coming to you and saying, hey, can we play Magic? You don't want to be going, hey, Jimmy, let's play. Jimmy, let's play. Here you go. Like, it's going to fail immediately when you do that.
That makes sense. I mean, realistically, like you're imparting positive reinforcement. It's a sense of enjoyment for them. If they treat it as a chore, they're not gonna want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have to make them want to be there.
Right.
If they don't want to be there, that's okay.
Exactly. If it's been like 3 weeks since they've asked you to play, so be it. Right? Just make sure that they see you playing and wait for them to go, oh, that's right. Hey, can we play?
It's something that I as a social media professional and working in higher education formally and stuff like that, we have this, or I have this saying that I have learned from other people. Your audience is a bunch of goldfish. They don't have attention spans. You either have to remind them that something exists, or just whether that's passively or actively reminding them that, hey, this is a thing. It's at that point you've done your due diligence. It's up to them to want to be there, partaking or engaging with it in the first, after that. there's only so much that you can do. There's only so much, if you're going to push, there's only so far you should/could push. So, the onus is on them at the end of the day. It's their hobby. It's, their interests and stuff like that. You might be disappointed in the short term as a father, someone who wants someone to play with, but at the end of the day,
right,
it's up to them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, fully agree.
I'm not gonna lie, I have a Vraska Golgari Queen Mythic Edition in my TCG cart right now.
EK, just DM me the price of that later. We'll split 50-50 with the shipping. We know who to ask to get your address, so don't worry. Consider it a thanks for the show.
Save it for for a birthday or something, if anything, or pocket it for yourself as a thank you from us for hanging out for the last hour.
Always, gentlemen, always.
I mean, you put up with our shenanigans every Friday and sometimes Sunday afternoons, so I think it's the least we can do.
Let's be honest. You put up with my shenanigans considering the decks that I normally play.
I don't know. I do some wonky things when I play, man. I'm just saying. I get competitive sometimes, but chaos ensues.
Fair enough.
Well, everyone, this has been a fantastic night.
Probably my favorite show favorite show we've ever done.
Like, we got into some really deep philosophical stuff, and I really liked it. I think we're gonna definitely have to bring you back, as I think there's certainly more we need to touch on, especially on the aspect and the biggest topic. Really ensuring that it's time quality spent that they want to spend on the game. I think we could probably do a larger segment on that, especially because that comes into more positive reinforcement and coming into understanding more about what your kid enjoys and likes, and how to be respectful to them while they're respectful to you.
Yeah. Totally. Always. Just let me know.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, as always, you can find us on Twitter at DrawForTurn and Instagram at DrawForTurn Podcast. We post weekly discussion topics. Drop us a follow, get in on the conversation. Matt, why don't you tell the fine people where they can find you at?
Oh, I'm an enigma. I hide. But I'm on the Twitter space. I think it's at Dynasty Wish, I believe is my Twitter hashtag. Whatever it is, I'm old. Don't look at the old man behind the camera.
It is at Dynasty Wish.
There you go.
Confirm.
Confirmed.
Yes.
Very cool. EK, what about you, my dude?
Same place, always, everywhere on the internet at EK Plays Cards, and soon to be on twitch.tv streaming Commander.
You guys don't know.
I have a schedule.
He's finally coming back.
Yeah. I'm not gonna be a Twitch partner, but I'm going to enjoy myself.
I'm gonna come in the stream just to give you shit.
Yeah, I know.
That's what I do. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, guys, you can find me at the usual places: Twitch, Twitter, Instagram at AstrosFlame. I stream a mix of MTG Arena, motivational talks, and games. I guess fun little fact that you may not know: we're actually finally making a Draw for Turn YouTube after 17 episodes.
Splitting off. Little butterfly has left its cocoon.
Yeah, finally got enough content. We've started it. We'll post some notice about it, and maybe you can find it and catch up on all your favorite Draw for Turn episodes. I like this one. But yeah, as always, everyone, remember to untap, upkeep, support your local game store, wear your mask, encourage positive reinforcement for your children and the next generation of Magic players, and draw for turn.
Draw for turn.